Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who do not know, my name is Kels and this is my channel, KelsTells. For those of you who have been rocking with me from the very beginning, thank you guys so much for clicking to watch yet another video dealing with sorority questions. Today's video is going to be talking more about graduate chapter because I've been getting a few questions in regards to graduate chapter and what to do when you're interested in joining a graduate chapter. And I just want to put a little disclaimer out there. My graduate chapter is not going to be the same as a graduate chapter from Alpha Kappa Alpha or a graduate chapter from Delta Sigma Theta or Zeta Phi Beta. With that being said, my grad chapter within itself is not the same as a grad chapter that you would come across in New York or a grad chapter that you come across in California. Like I've said from the very beginning, everyone's chapter is different, so my experience, or what I know, is based off of my experience and the information that I've gathered by talking to other people. So it's not going to be the same for everyone, but I'm going to do my best to answer your questions as the best I can. With that out of the way, let's get into this video. Today's video is basically answering the question of how do I show interest into a grad chapter, or how do I show interest in a grad chapter, and how do I join a graduate chapter. Now, I do have a couple of videos already out there in regards to graduate chapter, and if you guys want to see those, I will link them throughout this video, but let's just do another one just in case you guys didn't get the last ones. Let's basically talk about how to show interest in a grad chapter, and then if you're already in a sorority and you want to transition to a grad chapter, we'll address that in this video as well. So if you've never been in a sorority and you're interested in joining graduate chapter because you couldn't enter or you couldn't join when you were in undergrad, these are the steps that I would recommend taking. Now, one of my videos talked about how to use the websites in order to figure out what chapter you want to join. With that being said, with using the websites, it's basically a guide to show you what grad chapters are in your area. A lot of people experience difficulties with finding a graduate chapter in their area because they don't know which ones are close by, or they don't know necessarily what a grad chapter is. Now, let me be specific. Graduate chapter means that you have to have graduated with a 4-year degree. It doesn't mean that you have to be in grad school to join a graduate chapter. I think somebody asked me that one day and I was like, let me be a little more specific. I never thought about that. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you want to join a graduate chapter, you have to have already graduated with a 4-year degree in order to join a graduate chapter. I've had an instance where there was a girl who wanted to join in undergrad when I was an advisor. She wanted to join in undergrad, but she already had a 4-year degree and she was going for a second 4-year degree. In her case, I advised her to join graduate chapter because she already had a 4-year degree and could join graduate chapter. I think it would be more acceptable for her to join the graduate chapter versus joining an undergraduate chapter. It just less complicates things when you already have a degree. You can join the graduate chapter, which is not as, I feel like, not as strenuous a process as if you're an undergrad, because in grad chapter or alumni chapter, you're dealing with working adults. So whatever our schedules are is based off of what other people can do in order to meet. When you're an undergrad, you can meet virtually anytime on campus because you're on campus all the time. If you're joining in graduate chapter, there's going to be a set meeting place for you guys to meet, and you're going to meet either in the grad chapter's house or at a venue that's appropriate for whatever you guys are trying to do. The intake process does not change, be it undergrad or graduate. A lot of people have asked me that. It does not change. It's the same process. You're still going to experience the whole learning about the sorority, meeting in different places, ceremonies, rituals, all that. So none of that's going to change when you join a graduate chapter. It's just probably going to be a different vibe versus undergrad because you're dealing with adults versus dealing with younger people. So they're probably going to have a little more things in order. There's not necessarily anybody over them to guide them in terms of the chairperson bringing you in. Whoever's bringing you in is already going to be the vice president of the sorority because it's usually the vice president. So the vice president is going to be the one bringing you in, and it's probably going to be a little more structured than you dealing with it in undergrad because, let's face it, as young people, we need a little guidance. So it's a little more structured in the graduate chapter. Also, with the graduate chapter, expect your dues to be slightly higher, and there's no particular reason for it. It's just that when you're an adult, everything's higher. So if that's one of your decisions, or if that's one of the things that you're considering between joining an undergrad versus joining in grad chapter, just know that if you're joining in grad chapter, you're going to pay a little more in your initial dues than what you pay in undergrad. Undergrad runs a little cheaper because we're dealing with young adults versus adults who they assume, and by they I mean the sorority headquarters, they assume that people in graduate chapter have a little more money to kick out. I'm not one of those. when dealing with joining in a graduate chapter. I've said this before because I've had to correct one of the past videos that I posted a long time ago before I've gotten involved in this, and that's probates. Yes, graduate chapters do have probates, and they're different for each organization. They have their own style to it, but yes, you will have a probate if you join via the graduate chapter. Now, how to get involved in a graduate chapter if you're looking to join. Like I said, use the websites as a point of access or even as a resource if you have no idea what you're doing. It's just going to point you in the right direction in terms of who you need to contact, who's closer in your region, what graduate chapters are around you, and they'll also have like a contact us. What I've been telling people to do, because sometimes people get kind of lost in the contact section where they send their contact information and no one gets back to them. I recommend using the national website to find the region that you're in. Once you find the region, find the chapters that are closest to you, and then see if you can find those chapters on social media. See if you can find them on Instagram or Facebook or even Twitter, and reach out to them via private message on those outlets versus using a contact us, because they might even have their own website. So try using their social media DMs or direct messages before you try to reach out to them via the contact sheets, because I feel like it'll be quicker and I feel like you'll have a better ease of access with that. My sorority, we do have a Facebook page, a website, and a Instagram, and I get messages all the time, and that's only because I do the PR. So if I'm minding my business because it's connected to my phone, if someone's messaging the chapter a question in regards to intake, I see those because they come directly to me. Same thing if you're reaching out to another chapter. It's going to go directly to that person who works that page, and they'll forward it to the appropriate party to reach out to you and contact you. Now, if you don't hear anything from them, I don't see anything wrong with following up, because you are trying to show interest. Showing interest in grad chapter versus showing interest in undergrad are, I feel like, two different scenarios, because with grad chapter, discretion really isn't that big of a deal as it is in undergrad. In undergrad, you're dealing with a small party of people where everybody knows everybody, especially if you're in a predominantly white school and there's a small, basically a small collection of the minority. So people know each other more easily than they would know you if you were an adult. So I think discretion as an adult doesn't matter as much when you're joining a graduate chapter, because no one really knows unless the people around you don't want them to know. I don't think there's an issue with you expressing interest openly and letting them know that you want to join, because it'll just be easier that way. After you've shown interest in graduate chapter or with the graduate chapter membership chair, then attend their events. Ask them what do they have going on, what are some of their programs that they do throughout the year, what are some events coming up, and attend those events. Interact with them. I feel like in graduate chapter it's a little bit more difficult to interact with people, because once we do our events we basically go on with our lives, versus in undergrad you're constantly surrounded by Greek life. So as an adult, I don't see anything wrong with putting in the extra effort to let people know that you're interested, and putting in the extra effort to want to know when things are going on, because we tend to miss our windows when we're adults and events go on, because we're dealing with family, or we're dealing with grad chapters, or we're dealing with grad school stuff, or we just have our own personal lives that we're dealing with. So I recommend always putting in the extra effort to make sure that you're always in the loop, and to make sure that you always know what's going on. And even in graduate chapter, I don't see anything wrong with saying, hey, I'm interested in joining your sorority. What more can you tell me about it? Because at the end of the day, grad chapter is still recruiting just like undergraduate is, and we're trying to get people just like undergrads are. The difference is with graduate chapters, I feel like it's a little bit harder because we're looking for people who already have degrees, versus in undergrad, everybody's getting a degree. So we're gonna want you just as much as you want us, because we're still trying to grow in numbers as well, just like in undergrad. So if you're interested, don't feel the need to keep your interest to yourself, or keep your desire to yourself, because at the end of the day I feel like it's going to hurt you more than help you. So make sure that you're expressing how interested you are, so that we know, so that we can keep you in the loop as well. So that's basically my take on when you're interested in joining a graduate chapter. If you're transitioning from undergrad to graduate chapter, I feel like the process is a little bit more easier, mainly because you're already in the sorority, and you just basically need to stay in contact with a graduate chapter member, be it your advisor, who I think would probably be your #1 resource for transitioning over. mainly because they know the process. They know how to get you from undergrad to graduate chapter, because there is some paperwork that you have to fill out. You can't just graduate and then be like, oh, I'm going to join graduate chapter. No, you have to submit an application to join. Not really a big deal. It's just basically like transfer papers. So you submit a transfer application, pay the transfer fee, and then bing, bam, boom, you're in graduate chapter. It's a little bit easier. Like I said, graduate chapter is going to cost a little bit more. So just be wary of that when you're looking to transition, but it is a much easier process when you're looking to transfer from undergrad to graduate chapter. But that's basically my take on how to basically get involved in graduate chapter if you're interested in joining. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below, or if you have your own separate experiences with joining graduate chapter, please put them in the comments below so that other people can see it. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up, and I hope that you guys found this video very helpful, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.